just going on YouTube. This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review a 2008 mixtape by Ludacris. Basically, this product is called Blockbuster, and it came out in the fall of 2008. So the thing about this particular product is this is a lot more low-key a mixtape from Ludacris as far as this pitch is going to happen. It was seemingly like Wikipedia really only knows about like Ludacris's 2008 mixtape, the preview, but apparently he did more than that. I wasn't aware of this mixtape for like the longest time. It's an interesting type pitch because this came out just days before his 2008 album Theater of the Mind. So apparently he did have a lot more. The actual product of this mixtape is not as much original material. There is some new stuff peppered in here, but it's just more in like the concept of a bunch of collaborations that Ludacris did in 2008. And a lot of these just didn't amalgamate into album type fare. There were some ones on here, like there's a song that Ludacris did with Ciara in 2008 that was supposed to be on her 2008 album, because originally she was going to drop an album in 2008 and that didn't happen, just off the aspect of when Ludacris and Ciara did the song, like, oh, some pitches like that. So there was a sequel to that song. Ludacris and Usher did a song on here from 2008. There was also a song that Ludacris did with Usher in 2007. Not sure what happened to that particular one. Might have had Lil Jon on there as well, but there's another Ludacris and Usher collaboration. There's like a collaboration with Ludacris with Play His Circle, so apparently Play His Circle might have had an album supposed to be coming out in 2008, or maybe it was just a mixtape, not really sure. I-20 from Disturbing the Peace was supposed to have a 2008 album that had a single that was coming out. It was a pretty good pitch. So there's a ton of these folks, Pastor Troy, Busta Rhymes, some of these type folks, just some interesting type pitches to get a lot of secret material. I don't know why all these albums that were supposed to come out in 2008 didn't. It would have been a pretty interesting type pitch. Maybe if I can find the mixtapes that these songs were on, I would probably review those. But I look after, there's a lot of good buzz singles on here, and this is basically like a classic mixtape. This is This is one of Ludacris's best in terms of like the mixtape format. This is just very inspired. All these hit songs on here, you basically get some free songs of what were originally promo songs back in 2008. It's a pretty excellent pitch. Now, on the side note, there are several songs on here from like Ludacris's Theater of the Mind album, just within the pitch behind it, and some of his 2008 collaborations that wound up on albums. Most of these I've heard. Most of these are kind of on like T.I.'s Paper Trail, T-Pain's Three Rings, and like this albums like that, some of those type fares, and of course Theater of the Mind, some of those type fares. But I would also look after, there's at least a song that Ludacris did with Jennifer Hudson off of her 2008 album, which is an interesting pitch. I don't know about that one, so I'm going to decently talk about that. But yeah, there's just a lot of appeal on here, a lot of good features, just being able to say. But a lot of these to this point are very secret Ludacris songs, just because a lot of these, even in my particular knowledge of Ludacris, which I know pretty much most of the stuff he's done nowadays, this is pretty much, I'd have to say, damn near one of the last ones I can think of that I haven't gotten to in terms of his full discography, including mixtapes. But just being able to say, like, some of these songs in here, I didn't really know that I-20 was trying to put out an album back in 2008. It's the same thing with Play His Circle. I remember their 2009 album, Flight 360 The Takeoff, but apparently they were trying to do something before that. Usher was trying to do something in 2008. Now, the thing about it is he dropped an album with his 2008 album, which I forget what that one's called, but it's the one that has Love in This Club on there. But Ludacris was not on that particular album. It's just an interesting pitch that there was like a buzz song they did. Same thing with Ciara. She was kind of quiet in 2008. It's a good pitch to kind of get some of these. Busta Rhymes was supposed to. So it's just an interesting concept of getting all these, scrapped or kind of sabotage kind of 2008 projects just within the pitch behind it. It just feels very truncated, just pitches like that. I had to say it was a good concept, just at least getting this project where you can find these hosted kind of songs. So there's 20 songs on this particular mixtape, and out of those 20, there's really only one song I don't recommend, which is just Still Standing. That's pretty good, pretty excellent type pitch. So this mixtape is going to get a 10 out of 10, like I was saying. But basically, the only song I don't recommend on here, just to talk about, Still Standing, is just kind of the concept. I mean, this one's just kind of a struggle type song. Kind of reminds me of like a makeshift kind of nightclub song. Just kind of the pitch of just the initial kind of work shift relief where you're not quite in full blown switch to flip mode, get completely tore up, but maybe just like possibly like Wednesday night type music of just kind of saying, or maybe Thursday night type music if you don't have to work Friday. Just kind of the pitch of like, yeah, it's like 6:30, but I'm still kind of in work mode somewhat, just appreciating the concept of just like some struggle type music, and just the concept of just like on the grind, getting to it just within the pitch of like, maybe I'm not gonna really have as much like a full-blown ferocious kind of time. Just the aspect a little bit more composed and civil on this particular product with some of these R&B songs is a little bit more civil tone. This is not Ludacris from like his Move Bitch or Stand Up type days or Get Back type days. This within that tone. It's not to say he doesn't have any of those songs on here, but he just has a little bit, just like the album cover, it's a little bit more composed just within this particular product. Just kind of the product of just being able to, I mean, he still obviously gets laid and fucked up on this particular product, but just has a different composition as far as not being just the braids Ludacris and the more wisecracking Ludacris that you remember from the early 2000s. But I mean, this particular product, Blockbuster, that showcases the calmer and more composed Ludacris extremely better compared to the album Theater of the Mind. This is the better product. If I had to recommend to y'all the concept between choosing Blockbuster the mixtape, which is very low key compared to Ludacris's 2008 album Theater of the Mind, this would be the product I'd recommend. Now there are some gems on Theater of the Mind, songs like What Them Girls Like, One More Drink, songs like What Them Girls Like, One More Drink, Nasty Girl, some of those type pitches, Contagious, a lot of great songs for ladies on there with a couple of other boilers just within the concept of some other album cuts, but for the most part, you know, this surprisingly just has more inspiration. That's just kind of the pitch. So we'll go ahead and talk about these. Basically, out of 20 songs on this particular product, at least 9 of them are relatively exclusive that are hugely unknown about or very seldom to the point where they're worth having descriptions for. There's at least 8 songs that are on other projects like the T-Pain album and Ludacris's album and T.I.'s album, some of those type pitches, and Jennifer Hudson's album. Then there's at least, let me try to describe this. There's 9 songs that are at least original songs within the seldom format of just being uncommon. There's 8 songs that are on other albums, pitches like that, so it would have it up to 17. And then out of the 3 remaining songs, there's 1 song I don't recommend, so that brings it up to 18. And then the other 2 songs would just be songs on other projects like Pocketbook and Pop Champagne, I'd have to say. So I'm talking about despite the fact that Pocketbook's on another album, I'm talking about Pocketbook because I just have not heard this song up to this point, so I'm going to talk about it now. And then Pop Champagne is just a remix, a Jim Jones remix that has Lil Kim and Ludacris on there. It's a pretty excellent type pitch, kind of get that one, so it's a good fare for that. So yeah, basically I already talked about not recommending Still Standing, so we'll just get to some of these. Basically, really like her as the I-20 song. It's a real excellent type pitch here. It's like a slurred out kind of hella thump electro club hitter. I would definitely feel like here. Definitely has some commercial snap. It's just an unfortunate kind of, it's like a very unfortunate kind of overlooked song, I'd have to say. I think the concept about it was just the fact that I-20 really didn't put out that much music throughout like the mid 2000s. It really seemed kind of strange and just unfortunate that he didn't have an album out in 2006. I'm going to have to check out his discography just to see whether or not he had like a mixtape around that time. So I feel like Shauna had an album out in 2006, obviously, and a mixtape. It just felt like I-20 probably should have, considering that he made a lot of noise in the early 2000s with songs like Move Bitch and his 2004 album, some of those type pitches. I am going to have to get to that 2004 album. It's just an interesting type concept. We'll have to see some more about I-20, but this is a good kind of buzz song kind of get here. It just really has a nice Rocco sample just within the pitch behind it. This feels very contemporary, I have to say. The Usher song Dat Girl is a pretty nice one, as well as like a woozy and kind of dotty club bounce of a song to kind of get here. I would definitely feel like good kinetic and warped sequel to I would definitely feel like it's a little bit more of like a mid-slow, it's a little bit more of like a mid-paced slow dance type song to kind of get, but it is a pretty hot one. So this one unfortunately doesn't have like the snap of just like the overall bite of Usher's just within the pitch behind it, but it is a nice follow-up to kind of get some more of these Usher and Ludacris type songs kind of have. I just think the chorus is just not as full-blown kind of carnivorous, but definitely for a free mixtape, it's pretty excessively good, I'd say. It's just a good concept, kind of has some of this buzz type appeal. Really works great for like some social outing kind of pizzazz, I'd say. Good, excellent type concept, kind of get that. Pretty Girl is a pretty nice one. This is a song with Jarvis, pretty good pitch for that. I think he was like a Disturbing the Peace kind of R&B artist. He didn't ever drop an album, at least to my knowledge, but this is a dope enough concept to kind of see what was going on here. This reminds me definitely of like 2007 era The Dream, just within the pitch behind it, some of that type of era. It's like a nice groomed kind of dance club snap about this particular one. This reminds me of Shawty Is the Shit, good song to kind of have within that particular type pitch. This is a very elegant type feel. This also reminds me of like Neo from like the mid 2000s. I'd have to say some of his early albums just within the fare behind it. So it's a good concept just being able to see what Jarvis could have been just within that tone. Ludacris just does this on a lot of songs where it's not so much like a lot of these are Ludacris songs, it's just him dropping like a guest feature on here And I really want to say, for the most part, I can't really think of any songs on this particular mixtape where they're actually exclusive Ludacris songs to the point where he actually has 2 verses or 3 verses, minus the songs that are on Theater of the Mind. I'd have to say it was just a concept. Just a lot of these songs, they work pretty damn well. They work pretty damn well because a lot of these songs were just kind of like throwaways from like 2008 that just never made it onto like the albums. And if the album was scrapped or the song was scrapped, just pitches like that. So it's a good concept to snag up all these bonus type ones. But yeah, Pretty Girl's a nice one. High Price is a pretty quality one. This is the Ciara song. This is a good concept just because Ciara and Ludacris's O is a real effective type one, but once again, this one just has a little bit more gnarled type energy about it, but it's a good concept. It's like a very slizzard and slow creep kind of 2000s pull-up type music. High Price like a very slizzard and slow creep kind of 2000s pull-up type music to kind of get here as far as those pitches kind of happen. It has some southern bounce, definitely I would feel like it's a flashy and uncommon kind of slapper to kind of get just within the tone behind it. This really has the appeal, but once again, just like with the Usher song, it just is a little bit more of like a more gnarled type one. It's definitely a more vicious song. This just feels like a little bit more torn up comparatively to the song Oh. That one just had a little bit more radio and kind of vanilla appeal about it. Same thing with Usher's Yeah, but I look after these are excellent songs. Just kind of the pitch that these are kind of secret songs. These could definitely knock the socks off some people if you remember these type ones, just to say they think that they, obviously people who, if they ever say, I wish that I wish that Ludacris and Ciara would do more songs, well, here's one that could probably blow their mind just within the pitch. I mean, some folks might be kind of bittersweet about it, but the concept of these are some pretty nice ones. Just kind of the nostalgia factor is probably not as high because not as many folks realize it, but some good fare for that. How We Do in the A with Lloyd's a nice one as well. I want to say that this might actually be on Lloyd's album. I want to say he dropped an album in 2008 or something like that, but I'm not sure if this particular song made it on there. But this is like a glitzy and bright-eyed kind of city step out, I'd have to say. Definitely some night cruise around, just kind of get a lot of good, just starry-eyed kind of appeal. It's kind of like a promo song before like really getting to the venue, just appreciating like the pizzazz of the pull-up type fare, just like some of that sparkle, I'd have to say. And it's like some mid-pace kind of stunt music. So it's just kind of the concept, just a feel-good type one. It's kind of in the aspect of this traverse, just within the concept of just cheesing a little bit and just stunting around pitches like that. I'd have to say just decent kind of R&B rap type pop, just stunt type R&B hip hop type flavor. I'd say about that one. It's more of a Lloyd song than a Ludacris song, like I've been saying about some of these other ones, but it's a good pitch for that. Probably one of the best songs on this particular product is Sunglasses. This has a really great sample on there. I'm not sure what the song particularly was, but this is an excellent type one to kind of get here. Just reminds me of like Rick Ross, Port of Miami, some of that type fashion, just like those 80s sampling type songs. And also like Slim Thug kind of doing like the I Run song off of his 2009 album. It's a good pitch for that. This great sample, kind of surprising 80s like Night Gloss to kind of get here. Has some great appeal from like 2 Chainz and Ludacris, and it slaps pretty well to be able to get. So it's definitely like some nightclub pizzazz. Definitely good fortune. It's definitely a good bounty and fortune to get this particular songs. I'm surprised that some of these songs on here are actually just for free download, just within the quality of them. It's too bad that Dollar Boy's not on this song, but it is an excellent type pitch. Just me question where this song particularly stemmed from and what project it was supposed to be hosted on, as far as that kind of goes along with it. Just some excellent type fare. Self-Made Millionaire is a pretty nice one. Not as full-blown sure as to who the original song was from, because the description on like the webpage that has this mixtape doesn't say it, but this like early bird traces of like 2010s EDM. I would definitely feels like David Guetta and Tayo Cruz a little bit before they started to blow up full-blown with doing that particular style, before like late 2009, 2010, 2011, some of that type fare. So it's a pretty good taste of what 2008 was kind of doing. More of like the Cobra Starship Tayo Cruz type movement, some of those type pitches. Just would have to say good excellent type fare for that. David Guetta, like I was saying, but there's like a great work shift relief to kind of get here. So there is some concepts of some work shift on this particular product, just the fare, just being able to have like, that typical kind of like, once again, just like still standing, one of those type ones where it's like not necessarily like 8 or 9:30, 10:30 at night, but just the pitch of it being like 6:15, just the initial kind of conduct of just like, loosening up your tie, something like that, just kind of feeling like, I feel a little bit good tonight, just within that fare or something of that relative typeness. So, just within the tone behind it. Then Throw It Up, the Busta Rhymes song's a pretty nice one. Apparently Busta Rhymes is going to have a song in 2000, or an album in 2008 called Blessed or something like that. Good pitch, kind of see what that would have been. As I wondered why he took so much time off between The Big Bang and then Back on My BS from 2009, but apparently there was a scrapped album in there. But Throw It Up is like a brewing kind of nightclub noise, just to be able to say. This reminds me of like mid-2000s kind of mixtape buzz. It was like a DJ drama mixtape spare cut as far as those pitches kind of happen. This just has some glaring kind of evening ambience about it. So Lil Wayne is on this song. Pretty good shredder to get all these folks on here as far as those pitches kind of happen. Just like the overall appeal of this particular one. This feels ripped out of 2006, 2007 to some of that mostly bubbling kind of appeal about it just within the pitch behind it. It's a pretty good, definite dope appeal to kind of get Busta Rhymes on this particular type of song. And then You Don't Want Us, an almost song. Now I'm going to give this mixtape a 10 like I was saying, but this is like the only, apart from the one song I didn't recommend, this is the only other one that was kind of not so much full-blown sold on. But You Don't Wanna is basically like a sunny day, kind of sauntering, basic, kind of comfy cruise around, I would feel like. Just some errands music and like a grand mood kind of aspect, I'd say. The concept of it, I really feel like this is a great song to get torn up to. So when you try listening to this song sober, unless you're really just appreciating like your ride, cruise around pitches like that, just in a great mood for like some sunny, this kind of traverse and just errands type music where you're not in a bad mood whatsoever, it just doesn't have as much appeal. It's not really one that you'd listen to as much on like a Friday night or midnight, something like that, or just within the concept. It just kind of is like a feel good type song for like picnic, barbecue type fare, just relative cruise arounds, just in a hop and bop kind of mood. So if you're not more in like a sauntering type mode, it doesn't have as much appeal. That's why it's an almost song. But I look after it, and also, it works pretty damn well just if you are high as hell or drunk as hell as far as those pitches kind of happen, just as an extra type of appeal. But yeah, and then Pocketbook's a pretty nice one. This is the Jennifer Hudson song I was talking about. I'm going to talk about this one halfway just because the pitch it is on another project, her 2008 album. But this is basically like Pocketbook is basically like a spiffy and wide awake kind of date night noise kind of get here, and this is like some composed kind of turn up. So this one goes pretty well with Pretty Girl by Jarvis. I'd have to say Jarvis and Ludacris just within the pitch behind it. That same kind of hands full tied up typeness to kind of get here just within the concept, just a little bit more, not necessarily full blown whip, but just within the aspect and not just heavy, not just your typical kind of tall tee Jersey type music where you're going to be getting not just that typical kind of tall tee Jersey type music where you're going to be vomiting in a club, just getting hella torn up, just completely shit faced, some of that type there, and just eyes red as hell, pitches like that, just being rowdy like Lil Jon, standard vicious kind of crunk. I'd say just a little bit more composed, solitude just within the pitch, but it's pretty nice when I kind of get there. Lucas has a real good verse on there, makes a pretty good team with Jennifer Hudson, I have to say. Then also to mildly talk about Pop Champagne the remix, this really works pretty effectively. I like the concept of Lil Kim doing the auto tune on here, has a pretty good pitch for that, and Ludacris doing the same thing. They mimic and are a pretty good job with like the way that Ron Browse did that particular song. So it's an excellent type pitch, kind of get that extra type of appeal. That one's an extra spice to that particular song that I didn't realize. That's another highlight there. Just some good nightclub glitz about that one. But yeah, so this mixtape gets a 10 out of 10. The social score, I'm going to go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 also. There's just too many hitters on here to be able to say within that aspect. It's really the overall blitzing type appeal. A lot of this is just pounding nightclub pounder after nightclub pounder, just being able to say plenty of social pizzazz. I think it's pretty recognizable with Usher, folks like Usher, Ciara, Busta Rhymes, Play a Circle. Some of those type of folks are mainly more 2 Chainz. Ron Browse, Lil Kim are on here. Folks like that, Pastor Troy in some sense. I forgot to say Pastor Troy was on the song You Don't Want Him, but just within the pitch, Jennifer Hudson, Monica are on here. Some R&B folk like Jarvis, just good pitch, and then all the songs that are on Ludacris's albums and like the other 2008 albums that they were on. So it's a good pitch to be able to see that relative blockade. Definitely trendy to like the late 2000s, I'd have to say, and this has a lot of overall social bite about it. That it does have the makeshift songs, does of course have the turn up, but like I said, it's just a more composed Ludacris where he probably is getting some drinks in his system, getting his flirt on with just within the pitch. It's just not as rampant as he was red light district, chicken and beer, word of mouth type stuff. It's not like that's a problem. It just is a good aspect to just kind of have like the more just composition and just enjoying things within a more just more centered type aspect. So in terms of the future, like once again, Ludacris has not dropped anything whatsoever since 2015. It's just within the concept. There's only so many more projects to get to. There's yet and still more mixtapes, like I've been saying. There's some ones. This was kind of one I didn't know about like 6 or 8 months ago, but it's just kind of within the concept, just being able to have some of these type ones. Well, I knew about it 8 months ago, but just within the pitch. Probably 2023, I didn't know as much full-blown about it, but just within the concept of just being able to say, you look after that, there are still some ones after this one. There's a 2010 mixtape I'm going to get to, and then there's like the Luda verses that he dropped in 2015 in addition to Ludaverse also. It's just the concept. There are some more ones, but I'm just trying to think. There may be some other secret ones that I don't know about, but for the time being, there's probably only like possibly like 2, 3, or 4 more.